Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 224 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Coastman. I'm joined once again this week by the former heavyweight world title challenger, the man himself, Mr. Eddie Chambers. Eddie, welcome back on the show. Thanks once again for being with me. 3 weeks in a row, baby.
Yeah, man, we got a good streak going. Maybe it's gonna be 4. Who knows?
Thank you. But getting on to part one, getting on to the review part, we're going to start here at the Hangar in Costa Mesa, California, USA. This one took place last Thursday, the 23rd of Jan. Jason Quigley topped the bill. It was a Golden Boy promotion show. He's now 18-1. It was a KO for him inside 3 rounds against Fernando Marin, a late replacement, actually, Marin. I can't remember exactly what happened with the original opponent for Quigley, but this guy stepped in with like about 48 hours notice, something like that, maybe even less than that. So yeah, couldn't really expect much of him. Now 16-5 with 3 draws, a KO there in 3 rounds. Like I say, for Quigley, friend of the show, Quigley, I'd like to wish him all the best really going forward. Obviously he suffered that shock loss, and he's on the comeback trail. Moving out now though to the convention center in Minneapolis, Minnesota, USA. Caleb Truax topped the bill over here, now 31-4 with 2 draws. Friend of the show, former world champion. A majority decision though over 10 rounds against a guy called David Basajamivuli or something like that. Very strange name. I remember saying it on last week's show, and I thought, I've never heard of this guy. It's going to be an easy fight for Caleb, surely. And what's really the point in it? But when I actually looked at his opponent here, he was a lot better than his record suggests. I think he'd had a couple of fairly decent names on his resume. I think he'd lost to the guys, but I think he'd given a good account in those fights. So I actually sat back and thought, this could actually be a good fight. Caleb Truax, like I say, managed to get the majority decision win. So one judge had it a draw, and of course the other 2 judges had it in favour of Truax. The thing that seemed to let his opponent Basajama, I can't even try and pronounce that again, but anyway, he lost 2 points for hitting Caleb Truax in the back of the head. So those 2 points there could have really cost him. It sounded like a close-ish fight. I'm not quite sure if it was televised. I didn't see it. I don't think you saw it either, Eddie. But moving on now, though, to the big one at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, USA. Let's start with the undercard. Lorenzo Simpson, I don't think it was televised. A very good prospect, very good amateur he was. He's now 7-0. A unanimous decision over 6 rounds for him against Antonio Hernandez, now 2-11 with a draw. Jarrett Hurd, he came back. He took on Francisco Santana. Very tough guy, Santana. He proved it here. 25-8 with a draw now, his record. But Jarrett Hurd, 24-1, back to winning ways. He had his man down in the 10th round, but like I say, couldn't get him out of there. Jarrett Hurd tried to show us something different there, Eddie. He tried to box. Ultimately, though, it just doesn't really suit his style, I guess. He is good at the brawling, and it kind of reminds me a little bit like Sean Porter. Sean Porter's a brilliant brawler. When he boxes, he doesn't look the best, and I think that's the same kind of thing here for Jarrett Hurd.
Yeah. Honestly, with Hurd, he can have an aggressive come forward style, and still be stylish and still be crafty with his approach. I think the wrong thing is to try to become something you're not. And being a long range fighter, even though he's a fairly big guy at that weight class, he's best suited to be similar to like what a Diego Corrales was, being a fairly tall guy, big guy coming forward and being aggressive, but slightly obviously better defensively than Corrales was, and to be more cautious, not say cautious, but more careful in some of the the front foot stuff, coming in hard, throwing big shots and wide shots coming forward. You know what I mean? I think he needs to be a little bit more careful with it. Maybe a little, maybe use a little more head movement. I see he likes to try to use the shoulder roll defense with his boxing. But the best thing for him would to be, I would think, probably to just be a little bit more stay being aggressive, stay closer to the inside. Even though, like when you look at when he fought Julian kind of bested him a little bit on the inside, which I think surprised him. But even then, I still think that's his best shot. He has a good punch. He can be crafty on the inside, and he needs to really keep up with that.
Yeah, and I want to just give an honourable mention there to Jarrett Hurd's new trainer. Obviously, he's linked up with this new trainer for this fight here. It was their first fight together. One thing that I really liked that I saw in those little kind of hype up programs that they show before the fights. I don't know if you saw this, Eddie, but when he linked up,
I didn't. I think I missed it.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what his new trainer said. I forgot the guy's name. I really wish I actually knew it so I could give him a proper mention, but shout out to him. He basically said that when he linked up with Jarrett Hurd, Jarrett Hurd wanted to take the J-Rock rematch, immediately, and the trainer said, no, this is not the right fight for us. We've only just met, we've only just linked up, we've only just started training together, and it's not enough time for me to be comfortable, or enough time for us to gel together. So if you want that fight, then go look for another trainer. And he basically said that he did that because he's not in this for a quick payday himself. He's in it because he really does care about Jarrett Hurd. So that's refreshing. A lot of people in this day and age, they just want to chase the money, and you can't help but respect that from his new trainer, whose name has temporarily evaded me.
Right, no, yeah, 100%. You know what I mean? A lot of times you get guys who will sign on with a trainer because they know the potential of the guy who's fighting, obviously. Sign on as a trainer with, you see different guys and they change trainers sometimes like they change their underwear. You know what I mean? And it's because it's not necessarily always the trainer who's the problem. But when you get a guy like him who is coming in Johnny-come-lately kind of to a degree, obviously, and he's been hired to obviously help him improve in areas, how can he do that with one training camp? It's really, really not enough time for things to stick. Even if you are a real class fighter and you're even like a Floyd Mayweather who can adjust almost anything, you still need a little time. You know what I mean? A little to get an understanding. You never know how the fight will be, and how you guys will gel together. So it's going to take some time, and it's good to get an opportunity to see what you would be like with lesser competition, so you can try some of the things that you've been working on as well.
For sure. And also on the bill, Stephen Fulton picked up another win. He's still undefeated, 18-0, a unanimous decision there over 12 rounds against Arnold Kagai. Relatively unknown opponent, but, a decent opponent, 16-0 himself with a draw, unbeaten. That one was for the WBO Intercontinental Super Bantamweight title. I actually missed that fight, Eddie, so if you want to say anything about that fight, then you can. Otherwise, we'll just move on.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been knowing the kid for a while, Scooter. That's what they used to call him. Now he's Cool Boy Steph. I didn't know he changed it. But no, he's older now, so obviously he's getting away from that, the young boy thing. But it's good to see him, winning and doing his thing. I always thought he was a really talented young guy. You know what I mean? He had ability even back in the day when he was in Shoeless running around playing and all. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, from watching that, I seen he made a couple of mistakes every now and again. And the guy was tough. The guy wasn't just run of the mill type of opponent. Just for him to look good and around his way. No, he actually was. He was actually pretty solid. You know what I mean? He made some good adjustments. He did some good things. Like even from the early rounds when it looked like Scooter. Well, I keep saying Scooter. When I say Stephen Fulton. I just say Fulton when he was moving around and boxing well with a jab, at range. I think the guy made a couple of adjustments, got a little bit more on the front foot and a little more aggressive, especially even with counters. And he made him, maybe do some drops prematurely. He got put in a situation where I think he dropped on the outside, what I mean by drop is he dropped the level to kind of stop the action. And the guy kind of froze for a second, got an opportunity, as he was down, and threw a couple shots. And I mean, like I said, the kid made some nice adjustments. He did some good things. But at the end of the day, I just think Fulton was a little bit too good for him boxing-wise. A little bit too much speed, well-schooled, knows where to be in the ring, and he did some good things in that fight. And he had to actually make an adjustment because, once the kid made his adjustment, of course, you got to counter the counter, and I think he did that pretty well going into the end of the fight and ended up taking the later rounds. And like I said, he did well. And I'm actually proud to see another Philly fighter doing well and going to get a title eventually, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean he's knocking on the door. You'd expect in the next few months or whatever. I know he did a lot of sparring. I think it was last year with Carl Frampton. I think Carl Frampton speaks highly of him. And the main event, Danny Swift Garcia, now 36-2. It was a fight here, a win here against Ivan Redkach, now 23-5 with a draw. On last week's show, I expressed it wasn't really the fight that we wanted to see Danny in. I said that actually I kind of take it back a little bit because it was supposed to be Spence. It wasn't Garcia's fault about the situation outside of the ring, but all in all, I mean, all three fights on the bill, they weren't really fights that you would say were fantastic fights in terms of the action and stuff. All three of the main fights for me were a little bit boring. I hate to be negative, but Danny Garcia, I mean, everyone expected him to bang Redkach out of there in a few rounds. I actually thought Redkach would go the distance because Danny's not really a puncher, and some of Redkach's his stoppage losses I think came at the lower weight. So I think 147 is is a weight that he's probably a little bit more his punch resistance I'd say is a bit better at 147 looking at his track record, especially coming off that win like we say last time out against Devon Alexander. But again, wasn't really the guy we'd like to see Danny Garcia dance with, even with all the circumstances. And we didn't see a brilliant performance really. It was how can I say, like a one-sided beatdown really from Garcia. I felt like Redkach's corner could have thrown the towel in numerous times during the fight, but it just kind of cruised right up until the final round, and Danny won every single round. He won every second of every round, but I mean, it didn't really tell us anything. Errol Spence, if he was watching that, which I'm sure he was, he's going to probably be licking his lips at that because Danny, I don't really see being able to match him at all, especially based on that performance. Errol won't be shaking in his boots about it for sure.
Yeah. I mean, well, there's all kind of little silver linings with a lot of that too. I mean, if you look at the fight and you say, oh well, this guy wasn't this and he wasn't that. And, of course he wasn't, at Earl's level at all. He wasn't even a good matchup if you were planning on fighting him. Now, obviously, a southpaw is a southpaw, and you just wanted to have that stance in front of him. And whatever Redkach was going to bring, he was just going to have an answer for, hopefully. But the fact that he didn't look as great as people would have thought may make the fight even more appetizing for whoever wants to fight him, which there won't be any any issues. There won't be any evading. It'll be an easy, straight to the point type situation. No drama in setting it up. It'll just be something, bam. And we all know styles make fights. Now, even though Redkach, like I said, wasn't, to Earl Spence's level, he did pose some sort of problems. There's little weird things that he was able to do at times that would throw Danny off. And Danny did look good in some of the things that he did. You know what I mean? There were certain sharp counters that I seen that I was not overly impressed with, but I was impressed with some of the other things he did. But there was one thing that Redkach did toward the end of the fight that I don't know if anyone picked up on. And I don't know if it was Danny just kind of like being lax and just letting the fight go the distance, or really was he really struggling with this particular thing. It was when Redkach started throwing straight left hands to the body and changing levels and going from throwing a jab upstairs to a straight left hand to the body. And he did it a lot in those last 2 to 3 rounds. And it really looked as if Danny didn't really have an answer. Now, I'm not saying he was winning the rounds with it, but it definitely posed a bit of a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was landing those straight left hands to the body from the outside coming in. And if you look at that and you start saying, well, damn, if somebody really picks that up on tape, if that's something that he made a mistake on, man, if I'm a backer of Danny, I'm like, yo, we need to work on this in the gym immediately, because any one particular thing should not shut down a guy's whole game plan. You understand what I'm saying? And it was from a guy like this who most people say wasn't in this class. So what if it's a guy like Earl Spence that figures something like this out, or Manny Pacquiao to figure something like this out? This really can make it a real rough go for Danny. But maybe it was just him coming off the gas. I don't know. It just looked a little weird to me at the end for that to be such a problematic move that the kid put on him. You know what I mean?
Especially as Errol Spence loves to go to the body, but Red Catch, so well spotted, Eddie. But yeah, Red Catch is the fact that he's a southpaw. That's really the only thing that was good about the fight, I guess. If you're a backer of Danny, I don't know who the commentator was, and I'm not quite sure if you had the same commentator as we did, but it was an American commentator. It wasn't like we had our own UK commentator, even though it was on Box Nation. But the commentator was really bad. Like, he kept criticising Jarrett Hurd throughout the fight. He incorrectly said that Shane Mosley was training Ivan Redkach, which
I did hear that.
Yeah, which I think he did in the past. I mean, you mentioned there about boxers that change their trainers like they do their, what did you say, their underwear, right?
Yeah, underwear, yeah. No doubt about it.
Redkach has done that. I think he's had about 8 trainers, but his current trainer, I think it was it Jack Mosley? I think his trainer was. Yeah, so
that's his dad.
Yeah, so Shane,
it was Jack Mosley.
So Shane's dad. But yeah, he's been through a real run of trainers, and he also said this another mistake from the commentator. He said that Angel Garcia, Danny's dad, once upon a time said that he would shave his hair off if his son lost to Lucas Matisse. That was wrong. He actually said he would cut his head off, not his hair. So a few mistakes I picked up.
I would hope it would be the hair thing more so than his head.
He's crazy. I mean, he embraces it. That's his Instagram handle, @CrazyAngelGarcia. That is his actual handle. But yeah, leaving that there, we've whizzed through the review part as quick as we could. It's now time to welcome our very first guest before we wrap up part 1. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the reigning WBC Featherweight World Champion. It is, of course, Mr. Gary Russell Jr. Gary, welcome back on the show, my man.
Oh, man, thanks for having me. Greatly appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure having you on, Gary. So we last spoke back in May. It was just before the Kiko Martinez fight. I mean, that fight, as we know, ended in the 5th round when the doctor stopped the contest and he pulled Martinez out due to a cut. The fight went exactly the way most people assumed it would go. He wasn't quite on your level. Just from your point of view, though, if you can, just give me a couple words on that performance there. Another win, another knockout win.
I prepared myself to the best of my ability. I wish that, I didn't want it to be a Kiko Martinez. I wish that it was a Leo Santa Cruz or Javante Tank Davis or one of these guys that really would matter to me, but we couldn't get it. So we had to stay busy. That's just what it was.
And your next fight's been announced. It will be against Tugstsogt Nyambayar on February the 8th in Pennsylvania. I'm guessing you probably don't know too much about your opponent here, Gary, but what do you know?
I mean, I know he's a much better fighter than a lot of these other guys that's supposed to be in the upper echelon. I feel he won. He's a 2012 silver medalist. That speaks volumes on his pedigree. I think he's more technically sound than a lot of guys that's in the division right now that's competing. I think he's hungry. He got a little pop, and he's going to bring his best, bring his physical best. A lot of people don't know about this guy, but anyone that has 6 to 8 weeks to prepare for no one else but you is always a dangerous person. We never take anyone for granted or underestimate anyone. So we're preparing ourselves to the best of our ability. He's hungry. He has nothing to lose and everything to gain. So
Yeah, for
He's
sure.
going to put it all on the line. I'm pretty sure he's willing to do that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as you mentioned, 11-0 as a professional, 9 KOs, a good amateur, an Olympic silver medalist. He beat the likes of Michael Conlon and a bunch of others in the amateurs. He's 5'8" as well, which is quite tall in comparison with yourself.
You say he's what, man?
I think he's 5'8".
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Okay.
You could be possible. You could be right there.
Yeah, but no, Nyambayar, he's your mandatory challenger. He's not a big name. He strikes me as the kind of guy we'd brand as a high risk, low reward type of guy.
Of course.
Yeah, I know that you'd never shy away from a fight, but at the same time, these are probably the worst kind of fights from a champion's point of view to take, I'm guessing, from the outside looking in, these high risk, low reward.
Yeah, I mean, I agree to a certain extent, but I feel like when you are a champion, there's certain obligations that you have to tend to. And I feel like these are one of those obligations. I'm a true champion. I'll answer to the call of anyone that really wants to step in the ring. I just wish that some of these other champions would have that same type of attitude and be willing to do the same. Because a lot of these guys that's champions that have something to lose, they aren't willing to put it on the line. They're picking and choosing who they're going to compete against. They're not trying to fight the best. They're trying to fight whoever they can just to keep a decent record. I'm one of these champions that's willing to put my skill set on the line with whoever is in front of me.
And I'd say, Gary, that in recent kind of months, I'd say you've really kind of come out of your shell personality-wise. Would you agree with that at all?
Of course, I definitely agree.
Because I remember when we last spoke, I remember we had a little conversation after the interview, and I was basically just stressing to you about how important social media is. I know you're not really bang into the social media kind of thing. You just like to do your work in the gym rather than online. But we've seen a lot of your personality come out, and obviously in recent months you've tried your best in a couple of interviews and videos to kind of goad people into wanting to fight you. Obviously, I must mention the video that went kind of semi-viral with Leo Santa Cruz's father. I know the real you, Gary. I know that you're a good guy, but I feel like that video seemed to rub a lot of people up the wrong way because obviously, Leo's dad has been very ill in recent years. Looking back, do you think you might have gone about it in a slightly insensitive manner now?
Not at all. Not at all. I think you have a lot of people that's ignorant, and the first thing they would think is something ignorant. First of all, Leo Santa Cruz's dad. First of all, we're fighters. Certain type of attitude that you're supposed to have. It wasn't a thing of me picking on Leo Santa Cruz's dad. It wasn't a thing as if I was going to inflict any harm or hurt to Leo Santa Cruz's dad. That was my way of just saying to Leo, why is it that I can get within 3 feet of your father and I can literally put my arm around, but I can't get within 10 feet of you? You've been a champion. I've been a champion within the same weight division. I've been a champion for the last 5 years. Why is that we can't get this? Why is it I can't get equally as close to you, but I can get this close to your father? That was my way of picking on Leo Santa Cruz. It wasn't a way of me picking on his dad. So, I don't think I did anything insensitive. I know Leo. Leo knows me for a while. We all grew up through the amateurs. Leo knows the individual that I am as a person. And as well as a lot of the guys that's in the sport of boxing that's competing right now, a lot of the fighters understand the individual which that I am. I just wanted to put it out there. Like, I'm going to show the fans. I'm going to let everyone know that these people aren't really willing to fight. They're acting like they're afraid. They're acting like they're scared. I'm not understanding the reason why. I'm willing to put everything I got on the line. Why is it that they aren't willing to do the same?
Yeah, because I did, obviously we know in boxing the fans want to see the best fight the best. We don't always get it. The fighters also, some fighters, definitely you're one of them, you want to see the best fighters fight the best, but some fighters aren't up for that. So people do get frustrated with Leo Santa Cruz's run, the fact that he's gone through the weights and picked up belts against guys that some people don't really rate. So, he is under the criticism quite a bit, but I did just want to kind of, give you an opportunity to talk on that because I know it's a subject where, you probably haven't even seen what a lot of people have said in, their feedback about that video. So I did want to touch on it, but moving on from it. Go on.
I think it's very, very funny that you have everyone else that has something to say, other than the person that it was done to and the person that it was targeted at. So, you know, I think it's funny that you have these other people that it could awaken a certain level of emotions or fighting spirit in these people that's not even fighters. Why is it that the fighter isn't possessing that or showing that same type of emotion? That's all I wanted to do.
You know how people love to take everything out of context, my man. But leaving that thing in the past, you've made it clear numerous times that you've wanted to fight Gervonta Davis. Most recently, though, you've mentioned about fighting Tevin Farmer. I think perhaps after he had maybe called you out. I want to ask, Gary, who do you want to fight in your next couple of fights? Obviously not looking too far in the future, but you've mentioned about moving up in weight now for quite a while. What is the actual plan, and who would you like to fight in the near future?
To be honest with you, God willing, like I said, we never overlook anyone. God willing, we get through this guy, and we're injury free. I would love. I only wanted to stay at 126 just to compete with Leo Santa Cruz. I wanted a unification match. I thought that would have been a great fight for both of us. Apparently, him or his management team, coaching team, or whoever don't feel like it's a good idea of him to do that. So, you know, to be honest with you, I want to move straight to 135. I want to move straight to 35. I didn't want to stop at 130. There was no one at 130 that I wanted to actually compete against until Tevin Farmer mentioned my name and said if he beats Joseph Diaz, he'll welcome me up to 130 to take the fight. He's not even a guy that I had even possibly thought about competing against. You know, that never even crossed my mind. I honestly want to move straight up to 135 and would love to compete against Gervonta Tank Davis. I would definitely want to rematch with Vasily Lomachenko. And I feel like the only way for me to get these fights is to put myself in the weight division in which that they're in. You know, these guys aren't acting like real fighters. You know, if a guy, I'm 100, right now, I fight at 126 pounds. If someone walks in my gym or someone puts out a video and says he wants to fight me, I don't care if he's 150 to 200 pounds. It's the man in me too. I have too much integrity. I have too much, ego and testosterone built up to turn that down. You know, just morally, I'll step up to the plate because someone wants to challenge me. I'll answer the challenge, and a lot of these guys are willing to do it. I will. I wouldn't mind meeting any of these guys at catch weights if need be. It doesn't matter. So at this point, I'm willing to move up in weight, and hopefully me moving up in weight, you will have some of these bigger guys, even if it's not a Gervonta Tank Davis, or even if it's not a Vasily Lomachenko right off bat. Hopefully the fact that I'm moving up in weight, you'll have a lot of guys that will look at me as a smaller fighter moving up in weight, and they'll be more willing to take a risk because they feel as they have an advantage at that point. You know, and I'm going to make them look stupid.
I want to get your take on actually Shakur Stevenson becoming a champion now at your weight. I know that your immediate goals are kind of to get this fight out of the way and then to look at moving up. But what's your thoughts on him becoming a champion as quick as he did? Obviously a young guy, a good fighter, doing everything right at the minute. What's your thoughts on him as a champion or even a possible fight?
I mean, I think Shakur is a good fighter. You know, I think he's a good fighter. He's kind of a young fighter. He's hungry. Times has changed. You know, you got a lot of these guys. At one point, they will wait till they got maybe a certain amount of experience up under their belt as a professional before they try to compete for a title. Now times have changed. You got people trying to compete for a title in 12, 13, 14 fights. You know, stuff like that. I take my hat off to him. I think he's a terrific talent. I actually like him as a person, as an individual. He came down. We actually worked before. We actually worked with each other before. Mm-hmm. You know, he has a good understanding of who I am as an individual and the skill set in which that I bring into the ring. But he was never anyone that was on my list anyway. You know, it's not like I'm looking past people. But I got a game plan. That was never nobody that I was planning on competing against. After this guy, if I don't get a Leo Santa Cruz next, I immediately plan on moving up and wait.
Okay, and I want to get your take on that Joseph Diaz versus Tevin Farmer fight that takes place this week. Obviously, you know both guys pretty well. Who do you see emerging the victor there?
I honestly got Joseph Diaz. Tevin Farmer, I take my hat off to him because he did. He had the opportunity to become a world champion. He got the title at this point. But, he got stopped before. He had 4 losses. People tend to forget about that. I'm not saying that should put a person in a certain category, but it goes to show. His level of the skill set at some point. He has 4 losses. He got stopped before. I think he's a good boxer. I think he definitely can box. He's more technically sound than a lot of these other guys. But he don't got no pop. He don't got enough bite. He don't got enough bite to keep a real dog off of. I don't think he has the punching ability to be able to keep JoJo away from him. I think JoJo's going to walk him down. He's going to keep his hands tight. JoJo's hungry. He's been in the ring with one of the best fighters in the world, with the longest reigning champion, current up to date, Mr. Gary Russell Jr. He fought his heart out. He gave it everything he had. What he had wasn't enough when he competed against me, but I definitely feel as though it'd be enough competing against Tevin Farmer. I think Tevin Farmer, he can definitely box, but I don't think he has anything to really keep anyone off of him. JoJo can put his hands up and walk forward and start dumping and start touching. JoJo's strong. He's hungry. And JoJo can punch as well, I think he definitely learned a couple things from when we competed. And he's taking that with him into this fight.
A real interesting fight that I cannot wait to see. But just finally, my final real question for you, Gary. Whenever we speak, I always like to ask how your brothers are doing. Gary Antonio Russell now 16-0 with 12 KOs. Gary Antoine Russell, when we first ever did an interview, he had 100% knockout percentage at that time. He still got it. 12-0, 12 KOs, all within 4 rounds. How are they doing, and where are they both in terms of their stage in their career at the minute?
They're both doing well, man. They're both doing well. I feel like they're developing beautifully. I just can't wait for them to really make this next step to this next phase in the sport of boxing. By the time they get to the point that I am in my career, I expect for both of them to be much further than I am right now. Mm-hmm. They have a ton of talent, a ton of ability. They're hungry, they're focused, they're driven. They're strong. They can box. They can fight. They can punch. I feel like they both have the ability to have the total package. I just want them to maintain a level of humbleness, and just continue to stay open-minded, continue to be able to take in constructive criticism, because ultimately it's going to help mold them into who I feel as though they can be as men as well as fighters.
Excellent. And just finally, Gary, if you've got any closing words to our listeners, obviously you don't always do, or I should say don't often do interviews with UK media. So if you've got any message, especially for your UK supporters over here, the floor is yours, my friend.
Tell Lomachenko I'm coming. That's it. That's all. I don't got too much to say. Tell him I'm coming. Give me my rematch.
Okay.
I need that.
Okay, for sure. Listen, Gary, it is always great catching up with you, my man. Thank you so much for your time. Best of luck for February the 8th, and I'm sure that we'll catch up sometime after the fight.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you. I greatly appreciate it, man. To my true supporters and fans, thank you for all the love and support, man. Stay tuned for our work.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. A couple things to mention. Firstly, a bit of a shock. I mean, we're used to crazy shocks in boxing, but you're never really ready for the next one. But this one was quite weird. Jose Ramirez against Victor Postol. It was supposed to be for Jose Ramirez's WBC super lightweight world title. It was supposed to take place in China. I can't remember the date now. I think it was February 1st, if I'm not mistaken. Well, anyway, that one's been postponed because the outbreak of the coronavirus in that particular part of China. So the fight's off. Wow. Because they don't want to risk the fighters, perhaps, or the teams picking up this crazy virus. So another weird turn there for boxing, an unexpected turn. In other news, Brad Foster and Lucian Reed, their rematch has been confirmed now. The first fight was a real close fight. Both men, I think, felt like they'd done enough. They're going to get it on February 22nd at the York Hall in London. That's a Frank Warren show. I think also on the bill we're going to get to see Cody Davies against Umar Sadiq. That's going to be a brilliant fight, and a bunch of other names. I've heard that Tommy Fury might be on the bill, but Tyson Fury's fighting on that date in Vegas, so I'm not quite sure if that's definitely going to happen. And in other news, Shakan Pitters versus Craig Richards, it's finally on. That one's going to be for the British title. It takes place at the Coventry Sky Dome. It's going to be live and free on Channel 5 Saturday the 28th of March 2020. We'll perhaps get Craig Richards on the show, perhaps a little bit later. Maybe he'll be our second guest. I'll have to reach out to him and see. But that is it, though, for the news. Moving on now to the preview part of the show. This one takes place later today at the Meridian in the Island Gardens, I think the actual venue's called. It's in Miami, it's in Florida, it's in the United States. Let's just start with the very top of the bill, in my opinion anyway. It's not these YouTubers. Let's start with the IBF World Super Featherweight title fight between the champion Tevin Farmer, 30-4 with a draw, friend of the show, 12 rounds against the, I want to say, definitely top contender, Joseph Jojo Diaz, 30-1. Joseph Jojo Diaz, it's his third crack at a world title. He's looking to make the saying true, third time lucky. It is his third chance. He said before to myself on this show, it's sink or swim time for him. We spoke to Gary Russell Jr. earlier on in the show. He believes Joseph Diaz, his former opponent, by the way, will win the fight. I'm going to come to you first, Eddie. It's an intriguing battle.
Yeah, I would say, listening to Gary Russell, when you would think a guy like that, has a great wealth of knowledge, obviously, and, being a world champion himself at that championship level, as good as he is as a fighter, and, his eyes, as far as, and also, like I said, he's been working with Jojo Diaz, so he should think at least hope that he would have that kind of an outing. But I don't know. Tevin Farmer is really, really, really good, really slick, really smooth with a lot of his movements, certain things that these guys do, like Tevin does, is you're not really going to be teaching. You know what I mean? He just has that, that extra gear. Not really a big power puncher or anything, but just super slick, effortless movement. You know what I mean? Really wastes a lot. It doesn't really waste a lot of energy. But he's getting better all the time. So let's just see what happens. It's an exciting fight for me. I know him obviously, and I would love to see him win and keep this going.
Very, very, very interesting fight. I really cannot wait for that. That is the true main event in my eyes. It's an intriguing one, like we say. I mean, Tevin Farmer, a true inspiration. Obviously had a very, very, very rocky start, to say the least. And I mean that in every sense of the word. Rocky as well, being from Philly, starting off, not the best fighter and then turning into this superb boxer, Yes, of course, he doesn't have that pop, but, he can hit, he stopped a few people, so
yeah.
He's not, I don't think he's as light of a puncher as people make out he is. Joseph.
No, I'm sorry. I don't think so much as he's a light puncher. It's kind of like a situation like me. You're fighting out. Obviously, it's a little different, but I'm fighting guys that are giant guys. They're when you hit those guys, even on the chin, sometimes they look at you funny. You know what I mean, and come back with more. So with him, it's not that he can't hurt these guys or can't get respect. It's just that he's not one punch knocking you out. You know what I mean? It's going to take an accumulation. And it's going to take him styling a little bit, making you feel a little, down on the situation. Maybe like you don't have any future in the fight. Like maybe a guy needs to quit on the stool type of thing. Not necessarily. He may not hurt you, but he may hurt your ego. You know what I mean? Your confidence as the fight goes on, and that's another way of stopping people too. So I mean, he has the ability to do both. He can knock you out, I'm pretty sure, not with one shot, but he can definitely hurt you. But it also has the ability to make you want to sit on that stool and look at your corner and just say, man, no mas, that's also a possibility. But go ahead, Joe. I didn't want to stop you. I'm sorry.
No, I mean it's not. I wasn't digging it yourself, but a lot of people say that Farmer, his power's non-existent when that's just simply not the case. I definitely think Diaz is the puncher of the two. A lot of people talk about, he's got kind of an underrated power, but he really can punch. It's going to be interesting to see him though at this weight. Obviously, Diaz not long has moved up to this weight, so it's going to be interesting to see how he fares against a world-class operator like Farmer. Moving, and also just before I say moving down to the to the other fights, Gary Russell Jr. siding with Joseph Jojo Diaz to get the job done doesn't really surprise me. Gary Russell pretty much said himself in the interview that he gave me everything he could handle in our fight where I inflicted the sole loss on Diaz's record. He gave me everything he could handle and I could handle it. If he gives everything he can handle to Tevin, I don't think he could handle it. And of course, I think he said in other interviews that if Tevin were to win, then he actually wants to move up and fight Tevin. So interesting fights to see down the line, but leaving all of that there, moving down the card, Demetrius Andrade, 28-0. He puts his WBO World Middleweight title on the line. Friend of the show, Demetrius Andrade, 12 rounds against Luke Keeler, 17-2 with a draw. Those two losses, he was only beaten though by one man. The same guy beat him in both of those losses. Luke Keeler, a guy that obviously you're not going to be familiar with, Eddie, but I'm just going to quickly run through what he's about basically. Again, not much like Tevin Farmer in a sense that he started off bad, but he didn't turn pro the most dedicated guy, and that is the thing that relates to Tevin Farmer's start. He wasn't the most dedicated guy when he turned over in the beginning, and Luke Keeler's the same. He didn't really take it seriously, picked up a couple losses to the same guy. That guy ended up retiring from boxing for some reason, even though he'd only lost once himself, I think, which was to Eubank Jr., I think. The guy's name was Tom Doran. Anyway, that's old news. But yeah, he moved on from that. He started taking it very seriously. He started training properly. He stopped cutting corners, and then he started winning and winning and winning. And I've said it time and time again, and no one's ever pulled me up on it, so perhaps I was the first one to spot this. I thought maybe some people might think I was completely crazy, but his style reminds me of Joe Calzaghe's, so hopefully we get to see that.
Oh wow!
But obviously he's not, he's not completely the full package like Joe was, but he's coming off some great wins. I mean, he got 2 wins domestically over Conrad Cummins, and his last fight he actually was able to beat Luis Arias. Very clear. He had Arias down in the first round. He had him down in the 9th round as well. That was in my eyes, a big upset win, because Arias, his only loss came to Daniel Jacobs, and he arguably beat him in better fashion, actually, Luke Keeler. That was a brilliant performance. So that win there has earned him the shot at Demetrius Andrade, but I still think Andrade is just a few levels above, so it should be quite easy for him. Also on the bill, Daniel Roman, a guy that I've really, really grown to like. I really like Daniel Roman, 27-2 with a draw. He's the unified WBA and IBF World Super Bantamweight champion. He takes on the undefeated 7-0 Murajon Akhmadaliev. Not a guy that I know tons and tons about, but an Uzbek fighter, very, very, very good amateur. I think he's actually the favourite in the bookies as well, so that goes to show how much of a good amateur he was. And to be fighting for a world title in just his 8th fight, you've got to take your hat off to him for taking a risk so early on in his career. But Daniel Roman, a very good fighter, a throwback type of fighter, a guy that can set a pace that is very, very hard to match. And of course, you've got to think it could get quite interesting in the later rounds if Roman is still in there. Can he, he take Akhmadaliev to a part in the fight that he hasn't been to and set that high tempo that he's not used to sticking with? If he can stick with it. It's going to be interesting, that fight. I hope Roman comes through it, because like I say, very good guy, very, very tiny entourage, no hype men required. He's that kind of guy. He's just got his own belief, his own dedication, his own his own strength, and he's a quiet kind of, I'd even say borderline shy type of guy, but what a fighter he is. He's really grown on me. Of course, I had him on the show a few months back now, and we just got on really well, and he's a good guy. Also on the bill, Anthony Sims Jr., 20-0. This one's for the WBO Latino super middleweight title. He takes on Roma Angulo, 25-1. Amanda Serrano's on the bill as well, 37-1 with a draw. She's in an 8 2-minute round contest against Simone Silva, who's 17-14. Big mismatch there, considering Serrano's like a 6 or 7 weight world champion or something crazy like that. But yeah, it's a good card in the end. We're not even going to mention the YouTubers on it. Moving out now to the Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Ilunga Makabu, of course, former opponent of Tony Bellew. He boxed Bellew there for the WBC world title. I think it was vacant at the time. I don't think he was a champion, but anyway, he gets another crack here at the vacant WBC world cruiserweight title. Makabu, 26-2. He takes on Michael Seslak, who's 19-0. That one could be very interesting there in Congo. And moving out now to the Ulster Hall in Belfast, Northern Ireland, USA, UK. This card here, couple decent fights. I like the fight between Gary Cully, 9-0, and Joe Fitzpatrick, 10-0. That one's for the vacant BUI Ireland National lightweight title. But the main event is really the key fight. David Oliver Joyce, 11-1. Of course, he took on Lee Wood recently in that Golden Contract tournament at York Hall, and he got beaten quite badly, quite convincingly by Lee Wood. Very, very surprised I was with that, because that actual tournament that we had there, the Golden Contract thing, David Oliver Joyce was one of the favourites, or perhaps even the favourite. Very good amateur, but yeah, he lost to Lee Wood, and now he fights here against former world champion Lee Haskins, friend of the show. 36-4 Lee Haskins now. 10 rounds there for the WBO European Super Bantamweight title. That one's going to be on ESPN Plus, and I think it's on YouTube actually for free over here, so definitely tune into that one. Moving out now to the Beau Rivage Resort and Casino in Mississippi. This one's going to be on Fox Sports 1. Over here we have Yordenis Ugas, 24-4. He takes on Mike Dallas Jr., 23-3 with 2 draws. That one's over 12 rounds there. And I think this is the final bill. Yes, it is. It's taking place at the Inn of the Mountain Gods Resort and Casino in New Mexico, USA. Austin Trout, friend of the show. I think he was our first ever world champion on the BoxHard podcast back in 2015. Anyway, 31-5 with a draw. He's in a 10-rounder against Rosbel Montoya, 17-9 with a draw. It is obviously a little bit of a mismatch on paper, but Austin Trout deserves an easy fight. Time and time again, he's boxed these tough fighters. Tons and tons of heart, Austin Trout, coming to the very end of his career. So I'll give him a pass on that one. That's it, Eddie. Really, we've flown through everything there. Any closing words before I let you go? Again, 3 weeks in a row now. You are the best friend I could ever ask for. Thanks for filling in for Ayaz, who has gone missing. I think he's in Pakistan or something like that. But yeah, thanks for joining me once again on this show, Eddie.
Oh man, that's no problem, man. No problem at all. Like I said, I enjoy it. You got to help friends. But did want to say one thing, and this is I don't know if this is a boxing podcast without a doubt, and we don't want to stray too far away from what we follow, what we pay attention to. But it was a crazy situation that happened this past weekend. Yeah. One of the greatest athletes that I've ever seen, not even in person, but on television or period, basketball player. I know in the UK, basketball is not one of the main sports, so not a lot of people follow it or pay attention, but this name is huge. And for him to be gone is amazing. And I'm speaking of obviously Kobe Bryant, who died recently at 41 in a plane crash with his daughter and I think 8 or 9 other passengers who died. But there were a few kids, and their parents, and it was a horrible situation. And for somebody to be as big of a name as an athlete like that, it just shows that it can happen at any time. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter who you are, or, what situation you live in. At any point, your life could be over. So, there's a lesson in this. Is definitely get all your things in order. Whoever you're having problems with, be it big, small, medium, whatever, just end it and try to understand that the next day is not promised. This is a scary time to see somebody like that who's touched so many people in so many different ways, beyond, not only on the court, but beyond the court. Just, an iconic figure, outside of basketball as well. So it's just like, man, so much inspirational things that he did for a lot of people through basketball, also through, just him, being an incredible person. So it's a sad situation to see. My heart goes out to his family and everyone who follows, a guy like that. It's just, it's rough. And I'm telling you, I've been messed up with this because I'm a huge basketball fan, obviously, Joe, you know this. But, man, I've been messed up for this since I heard about it. And that's still really hard to believe. It doesn't even sound right coming out of my mouth. It's really weird. But yeah, I just had to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Live every day to the fullest. You never know when it'll be your last. You never get a warning. Well, you do in some cases, but most of the time you don't. Yeah, it was quite shocking. I mean, obviously, I rang you when I seen it, and I don't really. Yeah. I mean, I don't follow basketball. You know how much I actually hate basketball, Eddie. You're always trying to convince me to watch it. But even when I saw it, I mean, my heart sank because I thought, wow, I know he's such a big name, and I can't really quite believe it. And he wasn't someone of a significant value at all in my life, but it's a shock to my system as well. It is. I mean, he was one of the most famous people in the world. I mean, you go on his Twitter, and he had something like 15 million followers. So he's one of the most followed people in the world. So it's an icon. It's a sporting icon,
Yeah, he's most there's so many things that people look at, and I mean, even if he was Kobe the bus driver, it still would be a big thing, like a situation like that where now he's gone from his family. But the fact that he's touched so many people outside of his normal realm, through so many different ways, just being, like I said, being an inspirational athlete, coming from where he came from, which was not necessarily a bad situation. He came from a good situation, but to his attitude and how he how he ran his business, but also how he played the sport, how he worked harder than everyone else to get to the level that he actually got to, is a huge inspiration. So many people used some of the things that he's done, in their lives, be it if it was on the basketball court or if you were an accountant, It's just having that, what they call a mama mentality. And, people look at it, it's just, it's hard to believe. Like I still, like I said, it still just doesn't seem realistic. It's really weird to even think that, damn, this guy is gone. You ain't never going to see him again. And on top of that, his daughter, only 13 years old, and the other girls on the other kids that were on that flight, or on that helicopter, they're not even going to get to experience some of the things that, like we all have, even that he had. And it just sucks. Like, I was just seeing something on the screen, and it said his daughter was actually going to try to go to UConn, which is a college over here in Connecticut, and, play for their basketball team, and she'll never even get the opportunity to do it. It's just sad, man. It's terrible.
Yeah, no, it really is. It really is. But yeah, getting back onto the boxing, that is everything for the part two there. The final thing to do just before we wrap up everything is to welcome our second and final guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former British title challenger. It is, of course, Mr. Craig Richards. Craig, welcome back on the show, my man.
How are you? You all right?
I'm good, my man. I'm good. Hopefully that's the last time I have to call you a former British title challenger. It'd be great to just say British champion. I'm sure that is the aim.
Which you will be, the British champion.
It will be. So, Craig, we last spoke back in June. It was just before the Andre Sterling fight. I thought that we'd spoken after that fight, but I realised it wasn't on the podcast. It was in Nando's over some chicken. But let's skip that one. Let's go on to the most recent fight. I do want to get a word on that very questionable draw against Chad Sugden. If you can give me a couple words on that.
Yeah, questionable is the key word. You know, the only person who scored that draw, which he didn't even score it because he didn't have a scorecard, was the referee. Everyone else around ringside had me up, but that's here nor there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was a close-ish fight. I did think you just nicked it, and obviously with it being on your promoter's show, you'd kind of expect it to go your way. Not that that's necessarily fair all the time, by the way, but yeah, I definitely thought you'd done just enough.
Well, I was not the only one. My opponent himself came up to me afterwards and he said to me, I thought that you won that, to be honest. He said, I'm surprised about the decision. And he said, especially on your own show as well, to be honest. And his dad as well. And I said, do you know what? This is what it is, isn't it? There's no point crying over spilled milk. We'll just move on, innit?
And obviously, I do want to just make that one thing clear that a lot of people didn't understand. When Chad Sugden in the post-fight interview said that he'd only had a few days' notice or a week notice, whatever it was, he was clever the way he worded that because he was penciled in for a fight on the Saturday. Obviously, the fight with you took place on the Thursday, but you was the one who only had about a week's notice, not him. He was already penciled in to fight that week.
He was penciled for the 21st. He had an 8-week camp for the 21st, and then he set himself up for a big fight. They was actually calling for me anyway. So then all they done was change their date by 2 days. So it was hardly a week. At an 8-week camp, as you said, I was the one who got called back in for the fight.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, like I say, some good wordplay there from Sugden, clever stuff. But moving on, leaving that in 2019. Your next fight has been announced. It'll be for the vacant British title against Shakan Pitters on March 28th. Firstly, though, I remember you beating Alan Higgins back in March 2017, so 3 years ago. And obviously, you won the Southern area that night. You instantly vacated it with the hopes of picking up a bigger belt in the very near future at the time. Obviously, the Buglioni fight came real quick and stuff like that. You picked up a WBA strap. But it's been a long time coming, hasn't it, really, to get your hands on a British title?
I was going to start doing the countdown for how long I've been mandatory. It's been, 7 months or something? I've been mandatory now, waiting for a shot. So, yeah, it's been a long time coming, to be fair.
Yeah, it's finally here. And I want to ask you, Craig, the Craig Richards that we saw against Sugden, if that Craig Richards turned up against Shakan Pitters, how does the fight go?
I'd still probably beat him. To be honest, he ain't got a chin like Sugden. Sugden's had 200 kickboxing fights and never been stopped. He's world champion, the youngest world champion kickboxer we've ever had in this country. So, although I didn't turn up, I turned out probably not even 50% of myself. I know if I caught that guy with them shots, he'd have went. Because Chad Sugden's nose being broken, his eyes being closed. These guys wouldn't have been able to take them shots, but that's here nor there. That's all just a guessing game. At the end of the day, that's not how I'll be turning up the hill. And I will be raising my game for the big fight.
And what do you know about Shakan Pitters as a fighter? Obviously, he did well in that, I think it was that Ultimate Boxer tournament. We've seen him fight a brilliant fight with, who's the guy's name? It was at York Hall. Oh, gosh. Dex Spellman, yeah, brilliant fight. So, obviously, I'm sure you've seen all of them. What do you think of him as a fighter?
Yeah, I watched him. He done some stuff well. He got hurt a few times. Survived through and won on points. It was a good fight.
And Craig, obviously Hennessy Sports were the promoters that won the purse bids. Was that quite surprising? Did you? It seemed a little bit surprising from the outside looking in that Eddie Hearn didn't win the bid or anything like that.
No, because look, Eddie already made a deal with them, didn't he, to fight on his show. And then he made a deal with me, then they went back on their word, and then he was basically arranged a fight because then Shakan was about to work on some rubbish, they said. So they then arranged for us to box on March 28th at the O2 Arena, and they kind of went behind his back and kind of spoke to Channel 5 and whatnot, and that's how it came about. But as far as he was concerned, like, he was going to fight on his show on March 28th, and they won.
Okay. All right, and I want to get your take actually on a good fight that's coming up. A good fight here. Andre Sterling, former opponent of yourself, against Dan Azeez. I think they're both Lewisham boys, isn't they? That'd be a good one.
Yeah. We sent another battle of the blues. Yeah, it'll be a good fight. It's really a massive fight for both of them in their stage of their career because the loser is really left in the lurch, really. The winner can push on because if Sterling loses, that's 3 back-to-back losses on the trot. And if Dan Azeez loses, the fact Sterling's coming off 2 losses is not going to look good in his career either. So it's a must-win fight, really. But yeah, it'll be a good fight.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Andre Sterling's fighting later tonight, like in a keep busy against the journeyman. I think he's fighting Daryl Sharp.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I think he's fighting Daryl Sharp, who's...
Oh, just so he can get the nod for the title.
So he can, I suppose, yeah, that's it. But
what is he fighting with that?
He's fighting... Who's he fighting tonight? He's fighting...
Where is he fighting for that?
Say that again, Craig.
Where is he fighting for that?
He's fighting tonight at the Millennium Gloucester Hotel in Kensington. It's a Mickey Elliott show. He's boxing Daryl Sharp, who's 5-70 with a draw.
He should come through that.
You'd expect
I guess.
So. What did you make of his loss, by the way, to Liam Conroy? I thought Liam Conroy would win the fight actually beforehand, but he put on quite a show. I thought Conroy looked really good actually.
I knew Liam would beat Sterling, if I'm honest. Yeah, I knew he'd beat him. And it was, like Sterling done what he tried to do, spoil. But Liam Conroy's obviously watched his fight with myself and prepared for that and didn't allow him to come and spoil or make it as messy as he did try to make it messy, but I think he was prepared for it.
Yeah. And just finally then, Craig, we've kind of whizzed through it quite quickly there. What is your prediction, if you have one, for this fight against Shakan Pitters? Obviously, it's going to be in front of a massive audience, Channel 5. Everyone's going to be tuning in if they're not there. It's another chance for you to make a big, big statement and pick up a British title.
I think a lot of people will be there.
Where is it again?
Coventry Arena.
I think it'll be packed out.
I know it's a big fight everybody's been interested in for a long time, but I know there's another big show that day as well, in the O2, a matchroom show, so I don't know.
He might have all his fans there, though. It's not far from him, is it, Coventry?
Oh, of course, I have a lot of my fans there. We all have our fans there. But what do you think of the general boxing public and in media and stuff?
Well, I don't know. I can't speak for them, but... Everyone's going to be watching it.
You're a media. Where would you like to be?
What's the other fight on the same night? I've forgot.
I know there'll be... Eddie's meant to have a big show, isn't he?
Yeah, but it's not been announced yet, has it?
No, but I think it had like Connor... I think Usyk maybe against Chisora or something.
Okay. Well... Where would I rather be? Are you trying to give me a lift? Because if you're trying to give me a lift, I'll be in Coventry with you.
Jump right in them. The more the merrier. I need more people to see my victory.
And just finally, Craig, like I say, what's your prediction for the fight? You mentioned there that Sugden had a right chin on him, and Pitters doesn't have that chin. Do you win this one inside the distance?
We'll see. I ain't gonna go out and look for it, but if it comes. I think that was the thing I was just relying on, gonna knock it. I guess I kind of neglected my boxing at times with Sugden and just relied on getting the KO, so I won't make that mistake again. If it comes, it comes. I won't go out looking for it.
Okay, listen, Craig, it is always a pleasure catching up. Best of luck for March 28th in Coventry, and I'm sure that we'll catch up sometime after the fight. And hopefully, when we speak, in fact, not hopefully, I know it's going to happen, I'll be speaking to the new light heavyweight British champion.
Jeez, eventually put my name in the history book. Yeah, hopefully, yeah. God willing, it will happen. I know it will.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 224 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our two guests on this week's podcast, the reigning WBC Featherweight World Champion, Gary Russell Jr., and the former British title challenger, perhaps soon to be British champion, Craig Richards. There has been one or two pieces of news break whilst we've been recording the show. Big Baby Miller has now signed a promotional deal with Top Rank, and some of the Wilder vs Fury 2 undercard has been announced. At this stage, we've got the co-main event being Charles Martin against Gerald Washington, two friends of the show. Best of luck to the pair of them. May the best man win. And one of my top fighters of 2019, Emmanuel Navarrete, will be defending his WBO Super Bantamweight World title against the Filipino fighter Giu Santissima. But that is pretty much everything from us this week. Thank you all for listening to this week's podcast once again. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.